Welcome back to Creepy Chronicles, your portal to the abyss. Tonight we're turning off the lights and venturing deep into the unsettling unknown. We've scoured the darkest corners of the internet, the deepest recesses of the web, to bring you 3 terrifying tales guaranteed to leave you sleeping with the lights on. Prepare yourself, because these are the top 3 nightmare stories that will haunt your dreams.
A young woman named Sarah had just moved into her first apartment, a quaint little studio in a quiet part of town. It was a dream come true for her, a place she could finally call her own. She was excited about this new chapter in her life, but her excitement soon turned to dread. The initial joy of independence was quickly overshadowed by an unsettling feeling she couldn't quite shake off. It started subtly, a flicker in her peripheral vision as she settled into bed. At first she thought it was just her imagination, a trick of the light, or perhaps the result of her tired eyes. She dismissed it as a trick of the light, the shadows playing games in her tired mind, but the feeling of being watched lingered, gnawing at her peace of mind. But as the nights passed, the flicker solidified, morphing into a distinct shape in the corner of her room. It was no longer just a fleeting shadow, it had form and presence. It was a hulking shadow, darker than the night itself, its edges indistinct and constantly shifting. The more she stared, the more it seemed to pulse with a life of its own. Each night, the shadow seemed to grow larger, bolder, inching closer to her bed. It was as if it fed on her fear, growing stronger with each passing moment. Fear became her nightly companion, a knot of dread twisting in her stomach as she lay awake, staring at the encroaching darkness. The once cozy apartment now felt like a prison. Sleep, when it finally came, was plagued by nightmares of being stalked by an unseen entity, its presence suffocating, its intentions unknown. The line between dream and reality blurred. She tried everything to banish the shadow. She sought logical explanations, hoping to find a rational cause for the eerie presence. She rearranged her furniture, convinced the new layout would somehow dispel the darkness. She hoped that changing her environment would break the spell. She checked every nook and cranny, searching for any logical explanation for the chilling silhouette. She even considered the possibility of a hidden intruder, but the shadow remained, a constant in her growing terror. No matter what she did, it was always there, lurking in the corner watching her. One particularly harrowing night, as Sarah lay paralyzed by fear, she felt an icy breath on her skin. It was as if the shadow had come alive, reaching out to touch her. The shadow had reached her bed, its formless hand reaching out towards her. The air around her grew colder, and she could feel the malevolent intent. A scream caught in her throat, frozen by the sheer terror that gripped her. She wanted to cry out, but her voice was lost in the overwhelming fear. She squeezed her eyes shut, willing herself to disappear, to wake up from this living nightmare. She prayed for the morning light to chase away the darkness. When she finally dared to open her eyes, the shadow was gone. The room was as it had always been, but the memory of the shadow lingered. Had it been a figment of her imagination? A cruel trick played by her own mind? She questioned her sanity, wondering if she was losing her grip on reality. Relief washed over her, followed by a wave of exhaustion. She was mentally and physically drained, her body aching from the tension. As she drifted off to sleep, she could have sworn she felt a cold whisper brush against her ear, a whisper that seemed to slither from the very depths of her room. "You can't hide forever." The words echoed in her mind, a chilling reminder of the night's events. From that night forward, Sarah never slept with the lights off, the chilling memory of the shadow forever etched into her mind. A constant reminder of the unseen horrors that lurk in the corners of our world. She knew she would never feel truly safe again.
Lost in the labyrinthine corridors of an abandoned asylum, a young photographer named Alex found himself trapped in a nightmare. The walls seemed to close in on him, the shadows playing tricks on his mind. He had wandered off the beaten path, drawn by the allure of the unknown. seeking that one perfect shot that would capture the haunting beauty of the forgotten place. The thrill of discovery had always been his driving force, but this time it led him into the heart of darkness. But he soon realized he had stumbled into a realm where reality itself seemed to unravel. The familiar laws of physics and time no longer applied, and he felt as though he was drifting through a nightmare. He found himself in a seemingly endless hallway, the air thick with the smell of decay and the weight of unseen eyes. The walls were covered in peeling paint, and the floorboards creaked under his every step. The hallway stretched out before him, lined with identical doors, each one a portal to a different kind of fear. Each door seemed to beckon him, whispering promises of escape, yet concealing untold horrors. Panic clawed at his throat as he realized he couldn't remember which door he had come through. His heart pounded in his chest, and his breaths came in short, ragged gasps. He was lost, adrift in a sea of chilling possibilities. Each door he opened seemed to lead him deeper into the asylum's twisted maze, further away from the safety of the outside world. He tried each door, desperate to find a way out, but each one led to another room, each more unsettling than the last. The rooms seemed to mock him, their contents a reflection of his growing despair. One room was filled with mirrors, reflecting distorted images of himself, his fear magnified 1,000-fold. The reflections seemed to move on their own, their eyes filled with a malevolent intelligence. Another was plunged in an unnatural darkness, the silence broken only by the sound of his own ragged breathing. The darkness seemed to press in on him, suffocating him with its weight. With each passing moment, his hope dwindled, replaced by a creeping dread that chilled him to the bone. The walls seemed to close in on him, the air growing colder with each step. The hallway seemed to stretch on forever, the walls closing in, the air growing heavy with despair. He felt as though he was walking through a tunnel with no end, the light at the end forever out of reach. As he stumbled through the endless corridor, he began to hear whispers, faint at first, then growing louder, seeming to emanate from the very walls themselves. The whispers spoke of things long forgotten, secrets buried deep within the asylum's walls. They spoke of unspeakable horrors, of lost souls trapped forever within the asylum's walls. The voices seemed to come from all around him, their words a jumbled cacophony of fear and despair. The whispers wormed their way into his mind, feeding his fear, amplifying his terror. He clutched his head, trying to block out the voices, but they only grew louder, more insistent. He ran then, driven by a primal instinct to escape the suffocating horror of the hallway. His footsteps echoed in the empty corridor, the sound a constant reminder of his isolation. But no matter how fast he ran, the doors remained the same, the whispers followed, and the hallway never ended. It was as though he was trapped in a nightmare from which there was no waking. He was trapped, caught in an endless loop of terror, his sanity slowly unraveling with each passing door, his hope fading with every echoing whisper. The walls seemed to close in on him, the air growing colder with each step. The endless hallway had become his prison, a terrifying testament to the fact that some doors are not meant to be opened, some places better left undisturbed. Alex's journey had turned into a cautionary tale, a reminder of the dangers that lurk in the shadows of forgotten places.
Deep in the heart of a remote wilderness, shrouded in an unnatural silence, lay a forest whispered to be cursed. Its trees stood tall and foreboding, casting long shadows that seemed to move with a life of their own.
Locals spoke of it in hushed tones, warning travelers to stay clear, their eyes wide with a fear that ran deeper than any superstition. They shared tales of those who entered and never returned, their voices trembling with each recounting.
But for a group of adventurous friends, the warnings only served to pique their curiosity. They were drawn to the mystery, eager to uncover the truth behind the legends.
They set off into the woods, their laughter echoing through the silent trees, oblivious to the darkness that awaited them. Their excitement masked the growing unease that settled in the pit of their stomachs.
As they ventured deeper, the forest seemed to close in around them, the trees pressing in like watchful giants. The path grew narrower, the light dimmer, and the air colder.
The air grew heavy, thick with an unnatural stillness, the silence broken only by the sound of their own footsteps. A thick fog began to roll in, obscuring their vision and adding to the eerie atmosphere.
And then, the whispers began. They were soft at first, almost imperceptible like the faintest breath of wind.
At first they were faint, like the rustling of leaves, easily dismissed as the wind playing tricks on their ears. But there was an unsettling quality to them, a sense of intent.
But as they pressed on, the whispers grew louder, more insistent, morphing into distinct voices that seemed to emanate from the trees themselves. Each voice carried a different tone, a different message, all equally disturbing.
The voices whispered their deepest fears, their darkest secrets, exploiting their vulnerabilities, turning their anxieties against them. It was as if the forest knew them intimately, using their own thoughts as weapons.
The friends tried to ignore the voices, to rationalize the unsettling sounds, but the forest had a way of burrowing into their minds, amplifying their doubts, feeding their paranoia. Every rustle, every shadow seemed to be a threat.
Their once jovial banter turned to hushed whispers, their laughter replaced by uneasy silence. The camaraderie that had brought them together was now a fragile thread, fraying with each passing moment.
The forest was working its insidious magic, turning their once unshakable bond into a breeding ground for suspicion and distrust. Glances that were once filled with warmth now carried a hint of accusation.
They started seeing things, shadowy figures lurking in the periphery, their eyes playing tricks on them in the fading light. Every movement in the corner of their vision became a potential threat.
The line between reality and hallucination blurred, the forest twisting their perceptions, driving them slowly to the brink of madness. They could no longer trust their senses, each step forward filled with dread.
One by one, they succumbed to the forest's insidious whispers, their sanity fracturing under the weight of their own amplified fears. The forest had claimed them, their minds unraveling in the face of relentless torment.
The once vibrant group, now shadows of their former selves, scattered into the trees, their minds lost to the whispering forest, their fates unknown. They became part of the legend, another cautionary tale for the locals to tell.
The forest stood silent once more, its dark purpose served, a testament to the power of fear and the terrifying truth that some secrets are better left buried. The whispers faded, but the memory of those who dared to enter lingered, a haunting reminder of the forest's malevolent presence.
So, there you have it. 3 terrifying tales spun from the darkest corners of the human psyche. If you found yourself holding your breath, peering over your shoulder, or sleeping with the lights on tonight, then we've done our job. If you enjoyed these stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more terrifying tales. Sweet dreams, if you can sleep.